Good morning. Good morning. How we all doing? I said, how we all doing?
Good morning.
Good morning, birthday boy.
Hello, hello, hello. I am
Happy
ready
birthday.
for the next chapter. I am excited. I appreciate all of you guys who sent me some birthday wishes. I decided to treat myself this morning to a sauna session, and I almost killed myself. So, if you are planning on trying to get into a health routine and you want to put sauna into the mix, you might want to ease yourself in. I may have pushed my limits a little bit too much and had to make sure somebody oversaw me for about 5 minutes so I make sure I didn't pass out and die. But other than that, a lot of health benefits behind the sauna. So if you are trying to get a better start to your day, up until that point, it was going really, really well. So it's the first time I almost died on my birthday that I can recollect. Let's talk some real estate stuff. We have got the great Kate Garvey on the line today. So I don't know if anybody's got anything specific on the legal side, but she will be there to answer any questions. Kate, I will give you the floor for a second. Anything in particular that you've got going on in your world that you thought would be a good share for the group? You are muted if you're trying to go. Kate may be in a bad cell spot or something. Anybody else have something going?
I'm just technologically struggling this morning.
That's okay. We'll allow it. We will allow it.
Yesterday was the Monday of all Mondays, and today apparently is a Tuesday. So, good morning, everybody. Happy birthday, Steve. I personally think April babies are the best, but that's just me. So I don't know if anybody has any specific questions, but I've had a couple of interesting things happen. I think that when, we close a transaction, everybody, gets their checks, everyone's good to go. A lot of times people think that that's the complete end, when sometimes it's not, because as we all know, things can happen post-closing. I evaded an issue with title this week. We had a title search come up and it only showed one mortgage. So on the sales side, we do our job, we get the payoffs, and my client's like, nope, there's two. And I was like, all right, well, we asked for two, but we only got one from the bank and the title search only had one listed. Come to find out, the title search was wrong, and so was the bank. My client was right. Not that I didn't believe him, but I knew that it was an older mortgage. And so in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe it was paid off. I don't know. But he was, we listened to him and ended up finally getting the payoff. But, had he not been honest, and be persistent with us, that could have turned into a really big title issue after closing. And this just goes to show that as much as we put our faith in, title companies and surveyors and, appraisal companies, inspectors, all that stuff, we are all human and mistakes are made.
So Kate, on this one, just so I'm clear on it, let's say that the seller is not pushing, hey, there's two mortgages, let's just make sure they both get paid off, doesn't say anything, right? It probably goes unnoticed until potentially the new buyer goes to sell that property and somebody does a better title search and finds that mortgage, right? That's what we're talking about.
Which actually has happened to me in the past. Sometimes mortgages are modified. That's usually when, the person's struggling. So there was a lot of modifications during COVID because a lot of people got furloughed or whatnot. Those aren't always properly recorded. So those can come back and bite you. You go to sell and all of a sudden there's this mortgage on there and you're like, where did that come from? And now, although it doesn't become your responsibility to pay, it does become your problem. So that is also a huge reason why you should get title insurance. But they can turn into absolute nightmares post closing if things are missed.
Kate, maybe this is a good time to talk about the difference between the two types of title insurance. Right. So there is the
Sure.
lender title and then there's owner's title. So let's just make sure everybody on the call understands the difference between the two, because I think it's important.
Yes. So lender's title insurance, you have to, there's no option there, when there is a lender involved. They want to be protected. Lender's title insurance protects the lender. There might be some benefits to the buyer, but at the end of the day, it's there to protect the lender. So if something like that does come up, like a missed mortgage, there's title insurance that will come in and fix that issue. So this owner's policy is for the owner. You do not have to get it. It is optional. And people sometimes want to waive it because they want to save some money in closing costs and whatnot. And I like to tell them, that's fine. You have every right to do so. But if a title issue comes up, because title insurance is a one-time payment and it's based on the price of your loan. So often, title insurance for the buyer can be, $400 to $2,000, depending on value. And that's a one-time payment. So, if you never have to use it, great. Like any insurance, you don't want to have to use it. But if you do need it, it is extremely helpful and saves you a lot of money over the long run. Because you got to think attorneys are, $300 an hour, give or take. So do you really want to pay an attorney all of that to fix this issue?
And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, right, is let's say I purchase a property for $500,000 and I put down $100,000 on the property. So now the title insurance for the lender is going to cover the mortgage, which is the $400,000. They want to make sure that they get their $400,000 back, right? So if there is a title issue and I did not get owner's title, right? That $100,000 gap is where I now have some exposure. So the problem becomes maybe I only put down, I don't know, $50,000. So I've only got $50,000 of exposure, but now over the next 20 years, I pay off that mortgage. I now have a greater exposure, right? So over the next 20 years, let's say I pay off the loan. House is now worth $700,000. I have no title insurance. I have, whatever, $20,000 to $50,000 of title insurance. So now my exposure is $650,000, and I go to sell it, and I've got a title issue. That's where, that's your worst case scenario. Am I kind of explaining that properly? Anything that you would add?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So initially you're like, oh, well, I got lender's title and that'll cover me because, they're taking up the bulk of the coverage. The problem becomes as you pay this off and as that gap widens, if you now run into a title issue, this could be, really, really costly.
Yes.
Can you add owner's title later in the game?
You can, but it tends to be much more expensive.
So.
I have had people do that, but you can do it. It's more expensive.
So if you're on the call and you're just thinking about your own property, right? How much exposure do you have? Maybe at the time, I know a lot of people, they're tight when they're at the closing and they're like, another $500. I'm not going to get that. That's optional. I don't need that. Maybe you're in a different financial position now, and going back and taking a look at title, could be something just for a little bit of peace of mind.
And if you refinance, you'll have to get a new lender's policy because ultimately it's a new loan. But for an owner's policy, that stays with you, right? You don't have to get a new owner's policy if you refinance because, I know it's optional. So a lot of people are kind of like, I don't want to spend this money now. But to your point, in the long run, it's totally worth having because it can save you headache and a lot of money going forward if any sort of title issue arises, right? Because you can also do a title search at closing and everything's fine. That's not to say that something can't be created after you buy the house, right? And you may not know that unless you sell or refinance. So, they are important. They're there for a reason, like I said before, you don't really want to ever have to use your health insurance, but when you need it and it's there, you're grateful that you have it. Well, in most cases, I know health insurance is a pain in the butt these days.
Adam, I saw your hand up and then it came down. I don't know if you're still in a position to chat.
Yeah, I just wanted to add some flavor here. I mean, I think you are just insane to not get title insurance. I know some buyers can look at it as an extra expense. It is a commissioned product, so I think that puts some, raises some red flags maybe, or this is just a way for someone to make money. But you would think something as simple as 2 mortgages on a property would never happen, and it does, right? So for the short money of, I don't know what I see on the HUD, $1,000 or whatever it might be, like you're just crazy not to be putting it on there for yourself or for your buyers. So just want to add that context. I mean, it's and
Yeah, well,
the crazy thing is, like, I'm selling properties typically within 12 months of when I buy them, and sometimes tracking people down in 12 months from a purchase I
Mhm.
just made is difficult. So when you exaggerate that over 20, 25 years, now you got people that died, people that got divorced, you know, and again, like I had explained on a call previously, title insurance will correct the problem, but they're not going to correct the buyer that you're going to lose because it's taking too long to find people. Like, they hire the attorney, they get it done, but guess what? Get in line with the attorney that gets assigned to fix the title problem. So I can't stress enough getting the title insurance, at least to cover the attorney side of things.
So, Adam, I mean, let's just put it into perspective. I know you had a calendar year where this was, really came into play, but let's say in that calendar year where I remember we were chatting about this a lot, am I correct in saying, let's say you purchased 20 houses that year and it was like 3 or 4 of them, you had to invoke your title insurance, correct?
Yeah, it was 3. Yeah, it's probably, about 20 properties, and yeah, I'd say it was definitely 3. I don't know whether it was exactly 12-month calendar year, but yeah, and you're scratching your head thinking, how the heck did I just buy this property 6 months ago and no one catches it? And now
Mhm.
here I am going to sell the property with a ready, willing, and able buyer. We're 1 week away from closing, and like one property didn't close for a year. And guess who gets stuck with all the holding costs? The title insurance does not cover the holding costs. They cover correcting the problem.
Mhm.
So, and I don't want to say there's nothing we could have done, but it's really not anyone's fault. Is it the title examiner's fault? I don't know. Depends on the way the registry recorded that, the refinance of that mortgage. Maybe it wasn't really documented properly. So whose fault really is it?
Mhm.
So, at that point, it doesn't matter the blame game. It's how do you get this fixed so you can sell your property, and just picture a regular family trying to, like, literally packed up, ready to go. Obviously, with a vacant house, it's not as important to me, but you got a family ready to go to move into their next house, and then we say, "Oh, wait a minute, we got a title issue." So
So,
I
Adam,
can't
the
stress
other
enough.
the other piece, and I don't know if you'll be able to put this into context. Let's assume you didn't have title insurance on those 3 properties. You passed on the owner's title, right? Do you have any idea what this might have cost you to fix the issue? Can you put that into any kind of, if you
I
didn't?
I I don't know. I mean, all I know is a real attorney gets assigned to it, and they go fight to battle for you. And I don't know what attorney's fees are for chasing down title insurance, but I'm sure it's a couple $100 an hour,
Yep.
you know? And there's no way to push these people. It's like, it is what it is. They're on their
Yeah.
time frame. So what I have noticed is the attorney that you like can kind of take over if they want to, right? So let's say Kate did my closing and they assign a thing. Kate, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, but Kate can say, "Hey, I'll kind of handle this and essentially send you a bill for my services." I believe that it can work like that, if you've got more faith in your attorney versus the randomly assigned attorney.
Yes.
Yep. So that's at least
Or at
helpful,
least
but
with my title insurance companies, you can. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, are you getting that bill, Adam, or can she send that bill to the title insurance company because you paid for that title insurance?
No, so that's a good thing. There's no like bill that ever came. Well, I don't know how it would work if I didn't have title insurance, but when I did have title insurance, I never got a bill. It was just
Right.
I submitted a claim for reimbursement of some things that were allowed, and then the attorney submits their bill at the same time, and then the title insurance pays the difference.
Martin, your hand's been up for a bit. What do you got, man?
Well, one quick thing as far as the cost, was in a transaction probably about 3 months ago. And on the seller side, it went back 25 years, the issue, and ended up costing the seller almost 20 grand to get it cleared. And it wasn't anything that was from her, but like her great, uncle or whatever it was that owned the property before. But I do have a question about as far as, is there any products out there? Because there seems to be a whole lot of fraud going on with land and people trying to sell stuff that's not theirs. Is there a way besides making, going online to the registry of deeds and getting the notification, is there a product that protects people from both the selling side and the buying side from somebody sells your land that's not yours or a home that's not yours and vice versa?
So I believe that there are some insurances that you can get as the owner of a property. I don't know how legit they are, but I mean, I've seen things on TV and whatnot, like, like an insurance policy that you can get that kind of protects you should somebody come in and, wrongfully transfer your property to somebody else. I don't know much about those, to be honest with you, because they are relatively new. But I do know that things like that do exist. Somebody else might be able to shed some light on this. I mean, I know, like, from the attorney point of view, I have lots of insurances that cover like cyber fraud, all that kind of stuff. But as an owner of a property, I do believe that there is something you can get. I just don't know that much about it.
Amber.
Yeah, there's a couple of companies, they're like LifeLock and things like that, where you can actually lock your credit itself, but there's also one, and I can't remember the name of it, but it might be the same company that you can lock your deed so that, for example, they tell you not to pay off your house because then it leaves you more open to something like deed fraud. So I know I've seen that a couple times on a commercial, actually, and radios commercials.
Same.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy, right? I mean, if there is even a small mortgage on the property, that lien is going to be recorded, and when the attorneys go to settle, I think that's going to raise some red flags. So it seems like that would be a pretty good strategy itself. So I will definitely reach out to our insurance preferred and see if I can get an answer. But that's interesting about the locking of the deed. I haven't heard that, but it makes sense. I wonder if they just kind of similar to a mortgage. I wonder if they just record something on that deed that's got to get removed.
I'll look into it for you, Steve. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't. In my experience, I've not seen a deed with that on it. But I mean, it could be because it's just a newer product. But I can look into that.
Right? Couldn't you record something on that deed that's got to get released or something? You just go to do your title search and you'd be like, what is this LifeLock thing? And
Right.
yeah, so
I mean, that makes sense. I don't know how they do it, but
yeah.
I should. So maybe I'll look
There we
into
go.
that.
Anybody else on owners or lenders title? Any questions around that stuff?
I know it's super exciting. But it is very, very important. And a lot of people don't understand, what it is. I explain things in my closings, about what it is. And oftentimes I get, questions, prior to closing. But I do think it's something that you guys should be versed in, because clients often come to you before they come to anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's the key. We just need to know a little bit here. Hey, the attorney is going to ask you about this. Kate, what would you say, what percentage of people are purchasing owner's title?
99.
Oh, so we're seeing a lot of it. So
Yeah.
it's not, I would have guessed it was more like
Every
75.
No, every now and then I'll get somebody, if they're just purchasing land, like a, smaller transaction, they're like, oh, I don't need it. But I've also had that backfire. Somebody purchased land in Ware and then went to, I don't remember if they went to go build or sell or whatever, but there was a huge title issue that I don't remember if it was missed or if it came to be after, but when he was purchasing the land, his title insurance would have been like $100, and that would have saved him a lot, going forward. So I've had a couple people refuse it. I make them sign something that says that they're refusing to get it. But I would say most people do. Not literally 99% of the people do.
Just one other thing to note, obviously, to Kate's example, it is proportional to the cost of the transaction. So it's going to be more expensive for your more expensive house. It's a per thousand price. So
Mhm.
like for the $100, that's crazy.
Mhm.
All right, we got time for one more. Who's got something going on in a transaction, something that you learned? Something, Steve, what do you got?
So I completed that mobile home transaction. It was definitely a learning experience, as we spoke on here a couple times. Even picked Kate's brain a little bit on here. So I showed up to TD Bank at the seller's bank. The plan was for my buyer to bring the cash. For those that are on, didn't hear the previous one, passport only, came into the country with cash, no social security number, trying to buy a mobile home. Got an agreement. So we show up with the cash. TD Bank's like, we can't do that. That, red flags, all this stuff. And I basically was like, listen, let's just simplify it. Can you answer this question for me? I said, if you have a customer from TD Bank that comes in with $97,250 cash, it's going to raise flags. You're going to say, how'd you get that? And they give you a bill of sale for their mobile home showing that that's how they got their cash. You're like, yeah, that's no problem. I go, well, that's what we have here. I said, I'm here. I just want to make sure that the cash that your client's getting, because I'm involved, is legitimate. It's not counterfeit. That's my concern. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll run it through the machines. They did that. All the bills were good. None of them were counterfeit. Signed the purchase and sale, or the bill of sale, and we were good to go. And then as far as our commission, because again, she doesn't have a bank account, social security number, she was able to get money orders from the post office to pay a real broker, and the deal's done.
And so your client or excuse me, the buyer, you had the buyer. The seller just took those funds and put it right into TD Bank and opened an account, and they did their thing.
Correct. They had an
Yeah.
account there at TD Bank. They're a customer, so they just, once they verified the money, they came with a deposit slip. It said, great, it's theirs. And they wanted a copy of the bill of sale, which they saw us all sign. Everybody was there. So they felt comfortable knowing that we were all there to make sure, everybody was happy. I think that's what got it done. But then when I first walked in, I was the first one there. They were like, no, absolutely can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And that's everybody's first reaction is, because it's weird. It's unorthodox. It's a lot of money. People just want to like deter you. And I could have easily just been like, yeah, this isn't happening, and walked out. And it seems like it's a simple thing, and it's just being more muddied because of, it's a large sum. But if it was $5,000, it wouldn't be a problem. It's the same type of purchase. And once they kind of understood that, like, they were like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter if you buy a $10,000 car or a $120,000 Corvette. It's it doesn't really matter. It's just, how did you get the funds? So it ended up working out, which I was happy. Everybody was happy. But it was definitely, I wasn't sure as of 1 p.m. yesterday when I showed up if it was going to happen.
And I will say, over the years, Steve, I've had, I don't know, 1,000+ agents under one of my brokerages. And I would say one of the top factors between a successful agent and an unsuccessful agent is the successful agents don't take no for an answer. That's literally one of the top factors, right? There's definitely an effort thing. They do more, right? They don't ever say, I'm not going to go show you that property. It's only $50,000. It's not worth my time. Right? The top agents will take that $50,000 lead. They will drive to God's creation, wherever the heck they got to go. They will show that property, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to work that client into 3 other transactions. You know, that person was buying a piece of land for their daughter, but they have $1 million property over here, right? And so they just take opportunities as often as they come across them. And then when they hear no, they will figure out a way. And I think that's exactly what you did on this. A little bit of help from people on the call, but at the end of the day, you're the one. I mean, you got to the finish line and they were telling you no, and you didn't take no for an answer. So you get the, what do you get? You get the DJ horn. 'Cause you are that resident DJ. So great job, man. And thanks for sharing the story. I think that's the key to this call is come with your weird stuff. We're always, goal of this call in my mind has always been, how do we get 100 deals worth of knowledge into your brains as fast as possible? And all these little quirky things just help. So thanks so much. We are up against it. So let's just take a look at the learning opportunities that we have today. Let's see. We are loaded 5 different, why? When this thing doesn't work. Why is that being like that? Well, I will read you them. Apparently, I don't know why my screen share isn't working today. We can't go a day without something not working for me. So we have Trends and Tactics Mastermind group today, a Geo Farming Mastermind, Psychology-Driven Sales, Real YouTube Mastermind, and then an Attraction Workshop. So 5 different opportunities to learn a little something. If you are at Real Broker, these are obviously available to you. If you are not, just DM me and we will get you the links. So go have yourselves an awesome Tuesday, and we will do this again tomorrow morning. Take care.
Thank you, and happy birthday, Steve.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Thank you.